can't win alone.
You know, the kid deserves a break. He really does.
Me and James, we just can't win alone. You know, that's why basketball is played 5-on-5. So
the last 2 or 3 days were coaches of the year, guys with titles.
Yeah, no one's safe in our business.
Very rare that you'll see 2 consecutive videos on the same topic from me. But following my post-game reaction yesterday to the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Boston Celtics and them getting destroyed by the Boston Celtics, the aftermath and the blowback and what Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers and James Harden and Ben Simmons all did following the game is insane. And to be honest, I think what Joel Embiid said following the game is a little pathetic, in my opinion. We're gonna get to all of this, man. There's enough content in this video for us to get you a full video. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. This was like our 5th video in a 2-day span. It doesn't matter if it's monetized or demonetized. We'll make sure you're tapped in with the news whenever there's news coming out. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Can I be honest for a second? The one thing that changed sports for me forever is Prize Picks. Just having a little extra action on the game has made watching games so much more enjoyable, and I've actually been using this to get into other sports as well. A lot of you have DM'd me the amount of money that you guys are making off of Prize Picks, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story every single day. And right now, if you use my promo code microphone, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Philadelphia 76ers had the perfect opportunity to close out the Boston Celtics in Game 6 at home. This is a game where Jason Tatum was quite literally playing like dog for the first 3 quarters. I mean, hell, even in the 4th quarter, all the way up to the final 4 minutes and 15 seconds of the game, Jason Tatum was a non-factor, and the Philadelphia 76ers were never able to pull away. And once that game concluded and the series went back to TD Garden, I figured the writing was on the wall at this point. And eventually, well, as you saw for yourself, it was. We all know at this point that Doc Rivers has a very interesting history with Game 6s and Game 7s, especially if he is leading in the series. I mean, this is mind-boggling to me. Going all the way back to 2003, when Tracy McGrady famously said that he's excited to advance to the next round of the playoffs, well, Doc Rivers unfortunately was his coach, and he blew a 3-1 series lead to the Detroit Pistons. 2009 with the Boston Celtics, he blew a 3-2 lead to, ironically, the Orlando Magic. The very next year, Boston Celtics were up 3-2 versus the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. And guess who would blow a lead once again? Yes, the big 3 were not able to continue to carry Doc Rivers here, as he would blow a 3-2 lead then. 2012 versus the Miami Heat, LeBron James would finally get his revenge on the Boston Celtics, as Doc Rivers would blow a 3-2 lead to the Heat. Eventually, he would move on from the Celtics and join the Los Angeles Clippers. And with the Clippers, he choked 2 3-1 leads in 2015 versus the Houston Rockets and in 2020 versus the Denver Nuggets. And now in 2023, he once again blew a 3-2 lead versus the Boston Celtics. I said in my last video that, in my opinion, there are 2 human beings that should be held accountable for the Philadelphia 76ers not performing well. Yes, you could easily point the finger at James Harden and Joel Embiid because, well, they combined for 8 of 29 from the field in a pivotal Game 7. But I like to look through things from a team construction standpoint, and don't get me wrong, the Philadelphia 76ers are constructed beautifully, and that's primarily because they hit on their pick of Tyrese Maxey. I don't think you understand how rare it is to have a player like Tyrese Maxey, who is contributing to the level that he is contributing, yet is still on a rookie scale contract. You're essentially getting max contract player usage out of Tyrese Maxey in return for $4.5 million a year. And that's only good for 1 more year. So what are they doing with the rest of that money? Even James Harden took a pay cut. So what are they doing with the rest of the money? They're paying Tobias Harris about $40 million annually. That's the problem with this team. You could also blame Doc Rivers. He's really easy to blame in this particular situation because I don't remember the last time I looked at Doc Rivers and said,
yep, he's the reason why his team won a series.
Now this is my favorite part of the video. We're about to ask all of the main humans of the Philadelphia 76ers why they believe they lost this series. And all the answers are different, and some of them are a little awkward. You could clearly tell that some people don't like Doc Rivers, one of them being a human being that might leave this offseason. We're gonna get to that in a sec. So first, here's what Doc Rivers said Bud was the reason why the Philadelphia 76ers ended up losing the series. Take a look.
You know, the kid deserves a break. He really does. He deserves one shot to just be 100% throughout. You know, I don't know if we would have won this series, but I would just love to have him one time where we don't have issues. You know, I haven't had that opportunity, and Joel haven't had that opportunity, and that sucks for everybody.
They might be thinking, wow, Doc Rivers, he really truly has a horrific track record in pivotal Game 6s and Game 7s whenever he's up 3-1 or 3-2, as we showed you previously in the video. But there's no way the Philadelphia 76ers would bring him back, right? I mean, you have Monty Williams that's available, you have Nick Nurse that's available, hell, you have Coach Bud, who recently won a championship that's available. Say what you want about Coach Bud and his inability to make adjustments, but hell, when's the last time Doc Rivers won a championship? When the Boston Celtics Big Three carried him to one in 2008, facing a Los Angeles Lakers team that was just 4 to 5 months removed from trading for Pau Gasol? Come on now. I mean, that Celtics ring is such a big deal that you still have that 2008 Celtics team having these cute little reunions, and I think Ray Allen's actually invited now. So here's what Doc Rivers had to say about his future.
Are you planning to be the coach of the team next year?
Yeah. I think I got 2 years left. So,
Given the tenor of what you've seen happen in the last 2 or 3 days, where coaches of the year, guys with titles.
yeah, no one's safe in our business, and I get that.
Now this is where it gets really fun. James Harden was actually asked how he felt about Doc Rivers, and man, his reaction is so telling. I mean, this clearly seems like a human being that can't wait to play for Doc Rivers next year. Check it out.
How has your relationship been with Doc, and would you like to see him back?
Our relationship is okay.
James Harden's future is its own rabbit hole, so we're going to cover that later on in this video, and if this video gets way too long, we probably have to do it in a separate video. But what about the guy that James Harden was traded for? Well, what he did was hysterical. Immediately after the Philadelphia 76ers lost, Ben Simmons decided to post a story onto his Instagram of him watching the game. And to be honest, man, I thought this was really pathetic because Ben Simmons' comments are turned off. You can't tag Ben Simmons in posts. He doesn't want to hear it from anyone. And here he is trying to talk trash about his old team, who, by the way, swept his new team, which, by the way, he didn't play a single minute in because he's injured, which I don't know how he sustained a magical injury despite not playing with the Brooklyn Nets after his head coach quite literally said this.
Going to be some work that we have to do because you just take a look at what the lineups could potentially look like. Put another big next to Ben, then you got to figure out what the spacing is around it. Then if you put a playmaker next to him, then you got to figure out what Ben looks like without the basketball. Then if you go small with Ben, then you got to figure out, can you rebound enough with him? The challenges are ahead of us. We'll look them head on. We'll figure it out. We have the personnel to figure it out. Whether it is me mixing and matching throughout different pieces of the game and allowing him to have a group and run with a group, that part we'll figure out. But you see the challenges that lie ahead.
I mean, your coach literally said we got a bunch of new small forwards like Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, and we have no idea where we're going to put Ben Simmons in the rotation, so let's shut him down for the rest of the season. And you didn't even get an opportunity to get your revenge against your old team. Not that you would even check in to get revenge against your old team. I know this is a video on the 76ers going out sad and Embiid going out sad, but come on! You can't talk trash when you're too mentally feeble to even try to face your old team in the playoffs because you're scared of getting fouled, and going to the free throw line causes you stress and anxiety. Sorry, I don't mean to make this a toxic work environment, Ben. Let's move on. The thing that made me really want to make this video is Joel Embiid kind of has a history of throwing his team under the bus. Now, I want you guys to know, I love Joel Embiid. Like, I truly love everything he is. I love his play style. I love how him and Nikola Jokic quite literally revived the center position. I love how the MVP race was between two centers this year. If you told me that this was going to be the case 5 years ago, I wouldn't believe you. I don't want you to think that I have some sort of secret agenda against Joel Embiid. I just thought what he did here was a little weak in my opinion. Last year, when the Philadelphia 76ers lost to the Miami Heat, Joel Embiid said this about his brand new star teammate, James Harden.
Everybody expected the Houston James Harden, but that's not who he is anymore. He's more of a playmaker.
Now, maybe I'm being melodramatic. Personally, if someone essentially tells me that I'm not in my physical prime anymore, or I'm not as good as I once was anymore, my game has changed as a result of that, at the very minimum, you have to admit a little bit of a jab. I mean, he could be complimenting him by saying that his game evolved, but at the same time, at face value, I took that as a bit of an insult. Now, you could let me know in the comment section down below if you think I'm being a drama queen or you agree, but this is just the basis of the video. This is just to set up what's to come, because the real thing that truly upset me was what Joel Embiid would say next. So throughout this game 7, Joel Embiid would get carved up by Jason Tatum. I mean, like, Joel Embiid would literally guard Jason Tatum one-on-one on multiple occasions in a matchup that resulted in Jason Tatum shooting 10 field goals. And of those 10 field goals, he made 8 of them. He scored 24 points, 4 of them were threes. He hit all of his threes. They went 4 for 4 from the free throw line. Now, what is Joel Embiid doing on Jason Tatum to begin with? I have no idea. But on top of that, Joel Embiid was not only a defensive liability, but he was a huge offensive liability as well. In this pivotal game 7, Joel Embiid, who is widely considered to be the face of the Philadelphia 76ers, went 5 of 18, which is 28% from the field, and scored 15 points. He didn't even hit double-digit rebounds, by the way. He had 8 rebounds. Like, Jason Tatum and Al Horford bodied him on the boards, and he was a minus 28 in plus-minus. Despite that, he had this to say about his team's performance.
You can't win alone. I can't win alone. Me and James, we just can't win alone. That's why basketball is played 5-on-5. So, we just need everybody to just, try to keep finding ways to get better, and we'll be fine.
Oh, so now it's you and James Harden can't do it on your own. Before, it was James Harden is no longer the James Harden he once was. And now, after playing for 40 minutes and going 3 of 11 from the field and dishing 7 assists and 5 turnovers and only scoring 9 points, you and James Harden can't do it alone. The craziest part is the player that I criticize the most that is getting paid way more than he should is the player that led the team in scoring and offensive efficiency. Tobias Harris was 7 of 13 from the field for 19 points. Here's the thing, man. Joel Embiid needs to understand that people look up to him, and he's the leader of a team. I mean, he's quite literally the face of the Philadelphia 76ers. What he says is probably the most impactful thing for that entire organization. The entire organization's goal is to appease Joel Embiid and try to get him to stay there past his recent contract extension, assuming he can stay healthy. So when you're the leader of a team, and to be honest, this team was constructed beautifully except for the Tobias Harris signing. I mean, everything else ever since the Daryl Morey era has been fantastic. I mean, I don't know about Doc Rivers, but that aside, everything else has been fantastic. This team definitely has the pieces to compete for a championship. I agree with Doc Rivers there. But when your star player loses and plays abysmally, yes, I understand he was injured, and then says that, hey, me and James Harden need more help, that is a horrible look. I mean, that's not the message you want to convey to your team. That's not going to get your teammates excited to play with Joel Embiid. That's like in NBA 2K My Career, minus 20 chemistry or whatever. I don't know why he's saying this. And here's the thing, man. So you could say something like that. You could come out and say we all play terrible, but especially me, I need to do better. And it conveys the same message without making you look like as much of a pathetic, whiny. But in this particular case, just the way Joel Embiid went about it, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. In terms of James Harden's future, that's very much in question as well, because there's a rumor out there that's suggesting that James Harden is very serious about potentially leaving the Philadelphia 76ers to go to the Houston Rockets. Could you imagine that? Teaming up with Ime Udoka, potentially Victor Wembanyama if they could get him with the #1 overall pick, but if they can't, you still have Kevin Porter, you still have Jalen Green, you have Jabari Smith. Can you imagine Ime Udoka and James Harden in Houston strip clubs? I mean, that is probably like Michael Jordan-esque levels of legendary. Do I think that could happen? Well, I think it really depends on what James Harden's priorities are at this point. I personally think that the Houston Rockets with James Harden could be very, very competitive. You have scoring in Jalen Green, you have a floor-spacing big man in Jabari Smith, and you also have a team that could potentially hit in the NBA draft lottery and select Victor Wembanyama. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about everything, about what Joel Embiid said. We're going to bring you a longer video on James Harden because that's its own rabbit hole. And aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.